Good afternoon. This is Linda Shelnutt again. I'm continuing videos from the base of the reading of my Molasses Moon nonfiction work of light satire. And I think today I realized there was one of the things I hadn't read, one of the only things I think now from the book, besides the actual captions on the photographs, is reviews. There are actually 6 reviews now on the Amazon product page for Molasses Moon. All excellent reviews. And in the book, currently, I have the one that was first there at the time of uploading the current Kindle edition of the book. I'll be upgrading that soon and probably adding those other reviews. That I'm in process of upgrading most of my books periodically as I discover some slightly different way of improving them. Now, this review was written by another special young man that provided some very solid, appreciated support for this work. It came in after the first Kindle edition was published, and through a man named Joseph Way, who was living in America, Samoa at the time, a close friend of Philip Cassell, John Cassell's son, also a cohort. John is a cohort writer friend. So since it's easiest for me to base off of a reading, I think I'll read this review and then work into some more just commentary I wanted to make based on Molasses Moon. Just in some ways want to keep the video series going for a while if I can, because it's just been a very satisfying experience, and it's been interesting to watch the views and to see what seems to stimulate more views on certain videos. And if it works out, I might talk about that a little bit at some point, maybe even on this one. We'll see. So the title of this review is No Gooey Sticky Molasses Here, and it was posted on Amazon October 6th of 2008. And I'll show you on my Kindle Fire the text of it. Okay. If you watched any of the other videos, you realize I'm a little bit fascinated with my Kindle Fire and showing it, even including the glare. I enjoy that because it makes kind of an artistic, mise on a beam, they call it, MISENABYME. I don't know if there's an S in there. A French term for when you write stories within stories, like mirrors, reflecting mirrors into a type of infinity. By Joseph Way, writer, in America, Samoa. I pictured the moon sugar-coated when I heard this title. I thought of all the little kids getting hyperactive, screaming in Laufau, I don't know how that's pronounced, Laufou, that's Samoan. Our excuse for a mall way out in the South Pacific. But have no fear, it's only one of Linda Shelnutt's imaginative titles. The story itself is sweet in places because Linda couldn't write anything else, being that way herself. Usually I talk about stories with my Homie, Homie, Samoan for friend, Phil. But he's in the army now. All I can say is this was an experience. If young people think they have it tough, they will find they are not alone. This poor lady has all these books, see? And she has a solution to the world and its problems, and no one is buying. To me, this book is required reading because we all have frustration. He has that in all caps. I have it in spades. So does Linda. And in this book, she shows you how bad it can get, and some of the ways life has taught her to rise above it. Rise above it and fight again. For a successful overcoming of frustration, you can either read this or swallow 5 cakes of yeast. She does baking in the story, too. Ever tasted yeast? I'd much rather read Molasses Moon to rise above things, much. Tonight I plan to fall down the stairs and see if it helps me as much as it did Linda. That's an inside joke you'll see when you read it. She writes all these neat letters to just about everybody in the publishing business, including agents, editors, publishers, even the people over at Randomly Housed Brains, capital R, capital H, capital B. She writes with a kind of touching, I think. I think I'll let you read and find out. She quotes the letters for you, too. Actual letters to real publishers. And aside here from the present, as I reread this, I realized that Joe also appreciated very much the query letters being in there. The way he says this, she quotes the letters for you, too, with an exclamation point. Actual letters to real publishers. This shows that the reality, doing this, something very real that I have actually done, I guess means as much as I hoped it would to people reading it. Especially people I can respect, like these 2 young men, my nephew Lonnie, and this Joseph Way that I've never met in person, just online, through his father his father John Cassell. I guess I mainly want to say I got a lot out of this. It is one of those books that helps you in your own life while seeming to talk about someone else's. And I like that statement. I like this whole review, of course. It's a much better way to learn, for me, than being preached at. If you have that same feeling about being preached at, but need some good advice about how to deal with those unbalmy days when you can't stop the villains from conquering the world on your favorite video games, and even have some more serious problems, give this one a try. Now, this review was written, and Joseph Way read most of my published works before he went into the military. And I'm wondering now a little bit from the perspective of actually being in Iraq and on battlefields, if this book served in any way well. I hope so. Certainly a more serious problem, both being there and returning home and dealing with that transition. I'll close by saying that, as always, I enjoy the inside information on what Jimmy Stewart might call the anatomy of a successful marriage. I saw lots of old movies when my Omi Phil and his family were in Samoa. Seriously, I learn a lot from Linda's inside descriptions of domestic life. She has an outlook that I wish I had more of, but after reading her, it gives me something to work on in my own life. You'll get some of the same benefits when you read it. So a big Valima-fueled malo lava. I love this language. This rolls off the tongue even when you don't know how to say it. Malo lava for Linda, and I have here in the islands, and here in the islands that means 5 stars. Joseph Way, writer. Joseph and Phil worked together on a manuscript that I read that isn't finished, and I really look forward to reading more of that. It was a book that captured me totally. The way Joe and Phil worked together on this and the way the words came through. It's just one of those books that you live in and you so much admire the characters. And these are real people. These are the ones that wrote the book that are actually in the book. A lot like John Cassell's work. A little bit like mine, although I allow a lot of fantasy in my at least the books of Jim, to work into them. Because I like developing and traveling to other worlds in my mind, worlds that I make up. So that review, it's a special one, so I'm kind of glad it was the only one that I had at the time to upload into this edition of Molasses Moon. Because this should be also included with the other people that I thanked for helping me in the process as a writer when you're working in a vacuum. And I still was in a lot of ways, because even though my books were on Kindle, the chances of me ever selling more than a few per month, well, were pretty slim before the KDP Select free books promo came in. So from that, since the main thing coming to mind, I'll listen to one of the sayings that I used a lot in my books and read from this one. I think it actually came out first in New Moon Blues. And it based off of the saying from Jane Roberts, psychologist, who supposedly channeled the spirit Seth through her and wrote some books, Seth books, that were supposed to be said from him. And Seth, one of Seth's statements that is my favorite, and you'll remember this if you've watched these other videos: the point of power is in the present. I work with that a lot as an astrologer too, realizing that you feel the present, the astrological cycles, very strongly. And it's an intuitive, mostly right brain type feeling. But when you work spontaneously at times, you're keyed into those natural cycles a lot more strongly. So the point of power is truly in the present. And the statement I made, based off that more just intuitively, I didn't really think about that one as I made up mine, but realized how closely it did connect. Mine is, be where I am and see the significance. So being where I am is basically being in the present, but it also involves a little bit your current physical location too, as well as your mental location, your mood, your situation. That reminds me too, a short sidetrack here. Stephen King wrote an excellent book on writing, and that obviously would key in here. The title of it is On Writing. It's one of the few books I can recommend without too much concern that it might actually stifle. Sometimes when you read how-to books about creative processes, they can stifle you more than actually stimulate. Because when you're trying to fit yourself into a package or a piece of advice or goads, like I've called them here, types of goads, sometimes that just stops the spark. Other times, for other types of people in other different situations and moods, it might help them keep going. So here I'm almost losing my train of thought. But I'm talking about... I wish you were alive and you could help me get back on track. I was going to talk about tags, and then I got sidetracked to... This might be embarrassing, but I think I'm going to go ahead with it. Maybe I'll skip to my next subject and come back here when it comes back to mind. Be where I am and see the significance. And I slipped out of where I was, maybe. Just into sidetracks and other thoughts. So being where you are, like I said, is more than just the present moment of power. It's also what your thought is and your situation. That goes expands a little bit further than the moment, as does the physical setting and reality. But I don't know what I was trying to get at by the point of power, other than astrological cycles, the way I do these videos, what I'm doing right now, just deal with things as they come to mind spontaneously. And one of the risks, as you've just seen, is that all of a sudden you can just lose where you are, which is strange. What causes that? Here I am, wondering again and wandering off whatever the subject was because I lost it. And of course, in Molasses Moon, I say you're supposed to go woo-woo, making the sound of a train to get your train of thought back. So, we'll see where it was. I was reading this review. And the only thing that keeps coming to mind, I guess I might as well go there. That is the point of power, is the tags. Use of tags and how they seem to work with the videos that are more highly received by volume, if you want to call it that. The one, actually a pair of videos here that have had the most views are the two that deal most strongly with pure paranormal subjects of actual true events from my life. And I can understand fully why that would be the most appealing to most people. Most of us are fascinated, whether we admit it or not, with paranormal subjects, with anything that allows us to remain in reality but lift ourselves beyond it. I think that the appeal of religion and a belief in a higher power keys in with that need. So it's obvious to me why people would be more interested in the subject matter of, it was video number 35 and 34. 35 had, last time I looked, yesterday I think, it was 52 views, and it's only been, I think, a couple weeks since it's been up. And the other one, I can't remember, 34. But what I did with 35, it actually wasn't getting very many views. It was one of the lower, even though the subject matter is of high interest. The tags somehow weren't pulling it in. So I don't remember what I did, but what I do periodically on all these videos, when I see one that has a much lower view number than the others, I'll go in and look at the tags in the description, but especially the tags, because I don't know exactly how, but I know that Google and YouTube and Amazon have started. I don't know which one came first, but the use of tags for people to tag different items that will be used by these websites to help people find things that they're looking for in the moment. So what I'll do is try to look at the tags on a video that isn't viewing very well and see if I'm missing a tag that might help pull in people that would want to see what's there, would have an interest in it. So I juggled the tags and added a few on number 35. And it didn't take very long. I think it was only a day or two, less than a week. And it started regularly jumping. But I think it also keyed off 34, even though 34 has less. Anyway, I'll just jump to another part of learning from tags. I noticed this was more intuitive, but the tag, they both mean the same, how to and method. And we're dealing a lot with writing method and writing how to in this book, as well as publishing, as well as feeding creativity. And that's part of what the journal is, the life of a writer, and the everyday way the life fits with and fuels and works from the writing, and the way the writing works from the daily life. And boy, I'm really doing good at slipping gears today and losing my train. I wonder what that's all about. Tags, method. The word method draws a lot more than the word how to. And being a person who loves words and has made a lifetime, or at least a long-term study of it, words change in moods and in either having positive or negative connotations as they go through a culture being used daily. The word how to for a while was very popular, and now it's become, almost has a stigma. I probably could draw in some speculations about that, but just think about the word how to and the word method. How to is almost a little bit pushy and a little bit arrogant when you're writing a how to. And then when you're reading one, there's just something about that has a little bit more of a negative feel now than the word method. Method just is cleaner, and somehow. But I've noticed that that's just a key also, that different words for the same concept can draw people differently. This relates all to promotion, or just to help people find what they want more quickly, and to avoid what they don't want more quickly. Those are equally beneficial. In some ways, it might be more beneficial to be able to avoid what you don't want than it is to find what you want. Of course, that would be always up for debate with myself even. Okay, that's at least I've touched base with tags in the videos. That's one of the reasons too I think I was compelled to do these readings. Now I'm beginning to wonder how long I've gone on here. Probably about long enough. But I do have in mind to continue to do something like this, based from Molasses Moon themes and the videos that I read on that, and just continue whenever I can do another video. I wish I could find a way to organize these on my channel in such a way that they could be found more easily, because now I have 103 videos, and number 52, the one before this one, I hope I'll upload today. That will make it 104. This will be 105. Don't know when I'll upload each of them. So better not pause too long. You'll be yawning and going into some kind of a meditative state. Oh, that reminds me too. One of the things I talked about, the dream, that's part of what's going on. The dream nightmare that my mom had, that I discussed both in video number 34 and 35, when I seemed to have literally walked in to the dream in a physical way. And I have a lot more coming to mind on why that one time, through my mom, I was allowed to know what's actually going on when I get these strange moods or feelings, like I'm really sleepy. The only words I keep putting on it, I can't find any other ones, is I'm not all here. I'm somewhere else. And I just feel drawn and pulled, the focus. And it's an interesting feeling. In some ways feels good, but overall doesn't really feel good. I mean, it's not a bad feeling by any way, but you keep wanting to function better in the present, and you can't because your focus is somewhere else and your energy is being drawn somewhere else. And I felt that way in a real mild way earlier today when I was finished the work I wanted to do in my restaurant phase, as I've discussed a little bit on Facebook, of writing settings in different local restaurants. I started feeling that foggy, sleepy feeling. It's a feeling also that I've described to astrology clients. That's what was coming up with this. And it's not always meaning that you're somewhere else. Sometimes it means that you're coming upon what's called a fork in the road, choice point, or a crossroads, or, relating to Molasses Moon, a cue point. And somehow this will all connect at some point, cue points with this astral travel, which is more than astral travel, and which you're doing awake rather than asleep, or where you're sending something a little bit more physical from your body than just a spirit walk or an astral projection. I'm raining out so far here and still feeling that little bit of the jet lag, if you want to call it, from having been doing a little bit of a split reality thing of work somewhere else. So I was a little bit in that fog, but not so bad that I know I was really doing something important somewhere else with a lot of my physical presence needed, but that I don't remember, and for reasons I just have the feeling and know there's something going on but can't remember. My main theory on that is that it takes a tremendous amount of energy to recall something like that in your brain of the present. I don't know why. Physical energy that I don't have. I purposely have not been given in this lifetime to focus me on other areas of gifts and pursuits. It's part of a reason, too, that I think I've been dealt with sickness all my life. But so these foggy feelings where you feel drawn that you're not all here. Another thing that is going on, and maybe you are somewhere else making choices with background somewhere, with spirits or angels or gods or God who does know more. Maybe you're in some kind of a session trying to make choices that might be more important than other choices. These kind of crossroads or forks in the roads come up astrologically by the types of research I've done, that I don't know any other professional astrologers that have gone into it in this depth, other than myself and a friend that I met online, Sally Fisher from London. We did a major project together for a while through email, where I was expanding formations that I work with, their geometric patterns that the planets make from the perspective of where you are on Earth. One of them is one that was been used for a long time by astrologers. It's called a yod, or a hand of destiny, finger of fate, hand of God. It's a type of triangle that is rather long, 2 equilateral sides, and the base is a 60 degrees of arc, and the sides are 150 degrees of arc each. When that type of yod is triggered one way or another in your personal chart, you have a choice point or a fork in the roads. And sometimes they're more important, more predestined than other times. If they're predestined, then my theory is it's because your choice affects a lot of other people's choices or cue points. That reminds me of something that occurred today. Sometimes when a big cue is coming in the timing of like a yod being triggered out there for people and just in general, a lot of people are just coming up ready for a cue. And this morning I noticed that I had a cue of a time to leave the restaurant. It was just all of a sudden, and it was time to go. It's funny because there were 3 other tables that had people in them, and all of a sudden everybody got up and left at the same time. And it just felt to me like this is a cue, and they're taking it. A lot of times what I do is I'll sit back and relax for a few minutes and let everybody else go ahead and do their thing. And then I'll go at a less busy time. But today it just felt like I wanted to go ahead and just wait in queue. Which is literally what I felt like. And when I left, though, I was just in a foggy point of even called my friend Dr. B.J. Farrell to leave a message for her for some input that I wanted to give about magnesium working, theories about it. And I had mentioned being at a crossroads and a choice point just of priorities of what to do next, which I have often, but this one is pretty important. The timing of uploading some changes that I've made in the story that I've mentioned before, I Worked, that I recently published, that I've made some changes in on my visceral history code description. And I'm finishing that and want to upload it. And then after that, I want to put it on the free promotional few days. And I think the timing for this is kind of important for more than just me. So I'm trying to sense. And that's usually done by just following minute by minute the sparks and the strongest pulls and desires of the moment. And I've described to people coming upon a yod choice point that before you get to that time, and it might be exactly 5:03 in the afternoon, when all of a sudden some information comes in, whether it's just into your mind or if it's from a phone call, you get a piece of information, and as soon as you get that, right then, that yod is triggered. That's the time to make your decision. The cue, the action of the choice of the cue is right there, right now. And the way it feels all of a sudden, before that point, you were foggy and confused and knowing something was coming up, some time of a crossroads or a choice or something, but you didn't know what it was, and you just feel like you're walking around in a fog and you can't get clear. You just can't decide. And at that moment, when the yod is triggered, the fog clears. I'm getting chills of rightness. Fog clears and you know, and you make a choice. And normally those choices are right. I don't know why this is getting to me. Maybe it's important information that hasn't been shared before. Quite this way. So, and I'll take my cue now. I think it's time to end this video and continue with the work on my visceral history code and continue to upload these upgrades and republish my books with the improvements that I'm making, because I want to be ready when they do start selling. Be sure I have them at the best they can be. And they are right now. Probably way better than most. But I want to keep perfecting them until I also get to a point where I realize I'm not a forever perfectionist, actually. It's just like that yod point. All of a sudden I know this is it. I've done it. I'm done. It's finished. It might at some point later have another spark to do another thing to add or improve. But for the time being and for a while, I get the feeling and I know it's time, or it's done and it's ready. I hope this might be of help to people to be able to make choices more clearly, more easily, and more correctly. So I do believe this is a year that we will get more help than normal, to make more growth than normal, to become better and maybe the best that we can be. See you next time.